touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen. Why you hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans? I got dreams like King Luther, shed blood like Kunsa. You ain't here for my people, I ain't got nothing to say to ya. I want all the smoke like hookah. Talking reparations, America won't be great until they give us compensation. I'm like, I'm the hottest right now. I see a bunch of lames out here trying to jock on my style. They be doing too much. I'm the queen, it's too easy. It's like they all in Popeyes, how they be talking so greasy. I just sit back and laugh while these haters get mad. So nefarious how they don't want my pockets with cheddar. I tell them they can do better. These snakes in the grass can leave a bite on your ass, cause y'all be trusting too fast. I got my foot on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regret, we only facing the threat.
This is the sound of Eric Malcolm.
It's a cut on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regrets, we only facing the threat. Running through every challenge like a relay, break no sweat. It's a cold game, so I got that blanket with me. Now that my people awaken, ain't no going to sleep. I do not play by my piece, this time I'm playing for keeps. You talking slick, but when I see you like them ends, we gon' meet. And I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans, and I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating on me?
Right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to the original Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur show. I'm your host, Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur, and this is your morning wake-up call. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel. If you haven't done so already, be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. All right. So with that all being said, and without further ado, let's get ready to get into it. All right, let's get ready to get into it. Hey, Pearly. Anita Harrell is in virtual building. Nene is here. All right, let's get into it. Byron B, Anita Harrell, Deronda. All right, shout out to all of my loyal royals. I see you, Dark Tube. Terry Hitton's in the building. All right, Lana is here. Okay, so that all being said, everyone hit that like button, like, share, subscribe. Also, double check to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel, especially if you have not been receiving those notifications. Okay, so before we get started, let's have a brief word from my sponsor at 12 Tribes.
Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
All right, so don't forget you can purchase 12 Tribes hair oil at Etsy.com. Just look for Lisa Crafts. You can also find it at Walmart.com. Okay, and don't forget that she sells beard oil as well. Okay, so let's get into it. We have a lot to talk about. First off, let's talk about y'all's president. As we know, Rob Reiner and his wife were found dead. Okay, now Trump came out and said some disparaging comments about the man, and then when he was further grilled about it, he chose to double down. All right, so let's get into it. Like everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance. And he's been getting some backlash for doing so. I mean, but I'm sure no one's surprised. We all know how nasty and absolutely deplorable Trump can, in fact, be. And he didn't like Rob Reiner because this man was a critic of his.
Reiner's deaths prompting an outpouring of condolences from across Hollywood and the world of politics. Reiner was a longtime liberal activist and Democratic fundraiser and had been a vocal critic of Donald Trump since his first run for president. Mr. Reiner appeared on this program during the 2016 Democratic National Convention, where he spoke about then candidate Donald Trump.
We've seen the George Wallaces and people like that, but we've never seen a major party candidate that is this ill-prepared and this divisive and this angry and this hateful. We have two candidates that couldn't be more diametrically opposed in terms of inclusiveness and allowing people together and healing racial divides than Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton.
Today, President Trump reacted to Reiner's death with a disparaging post on social media that has generated bipartisan backlash. We're choosing not to show the full post because it contains allegations not corroborated by authorities. But the president, in it, he says that he suggests the deaths were related to Reiner's political activism because Mr. Reiner had, quote, Trump derangement syndrome, and that, quote, he was known to have driven people crazy by his raging obsession of President Donald J. Trump.
First of all, the man was not obsessed with Trump, okay? That's what he wasn't. He gave his opinions and criticism on Trump as he was allowed to do. With that all being said, Trump wants to paint it as if someone took the man and his wife out because of the things that he was saying about Trump. That's the picture he's trying to paint. Okay, that's the picture he's trying to paint. So ridiculous. Okay, this is y'all's president. It should be embarrassing for the U.S.
Again, police have not released any motive for the killing. We hinted about the president's post today, and he was asked about it in that exchange with reporters not long ago. Let's listen to what the president had to say when asked about this post.
I wasn't a fan of his at all. He was a deranged person as far as Trump is concerned. He said he knew it was false. In fact, it's the exact opposite, that I was a friend of Russia, controlled by Russia. You know, it was the Russia hoax. He was one of the people behind it. I think he hurt himself in career-wise. So he became like a deranged person, Trump derangement syndrome. So I was not a fan of Rob Reiner at all in any way, shape, or form. I thought he was very bad for our country.
The hell was Rob Reiner bad for the country? Okay, do you hear this man? He is so ridiculous and stupid. And everything Rob Reiner said about him was the gospel. Okay? Everything he said was the gospel. And he's talking about he's deranged. No, you're deranged. And then saying that it ruined his career. No, it didn't. Okay, he had a stellar career even until the end. What are you talking about, you idiot? But let's let him cook. And then we're going to go to this next video because they say that even Michelle Obama came out and said something about Trump going in on Rob Reiner.
So the question that was posed to the president was, do you stand by that post? And I guess we can discern from his response that, yes, he does. We've heard so much from the president over the years, harsh language, coarse language, and yet this seemed a bit surprising in the sense that there wasn't an obvious reason why the president would need to weigh in on this matter.
Yeah, that's the thing. The president has a choice. He can either say something or not. And he chose to say something in this. The president of the United States doesn't have a lot to say about a murder issue in Los Angeles with someone who's famous. But it's a repeat thing of the president who values loyalty and someone being with him over anything else. One thing that really stands out to me is Utah Governor Spencer Cox in an interview last week. He said that the president told him in the aftermath of the Charlie Kirk murder that his job is not to unite the country. And that was just a really telling anecdote of where the president is and what he views his role is as leader of the United States.
First of all, let me just say, Trump didn't tell any lies. That isn't his job. Trump's job is absolutely not to unite the country. His job is to divide the country and to dismantle it from the inside out. Now, that's my opinion, and I've been telling y'all that for months. So I don't think he said anything wrong. That's exactly what he's doing, okay? His job that he was given to do. Dismantle the United States, cause division, sow seeds of discord and hate and confusion and chaos. That's what he was told to do, in my opinion. I absolutely believe it. Dynamic Quality says Rob Reiner was wonderful for this country. He contributed more to this country than this orange idiot ever could, would, or could. Exactly. And I have to agree. All right, I have to absolutely agree. Now, with that all being said, I find it interesting also that he brought up Rob Reiner's comments about he and Putin and Russia and saying that Russia was controlling him and whatnot. Well, that seems to be absolutely the case. I've been saying that myself for how long? And not to mention the incident that we're going to talk about later with the European Union and with these European leaders, what they have to say about Trump and what they've threatened to do. This is all because they too think that Trump is controlled by Putin. Okay, and they've issued a warning to him and the United States. All right, now I want y'all to pay attention. So was Rob Reiner lying? Yeah, no, he wasn't. Okay, so Trump should have just kept his mouth shut. If you don't have anything nice to say, hey, just don't say anything at all. Okay, but let's continue.
You won't find any condolences for Rob Reiner and his wife is the White House. During an event in the Oval Office, the president was asked about attacking Reiner on social media just hours after his death. The president doubled down.
I wasn't a fan of his at all. He became like a deranged person, Trump derangement syndrome. So I was not a fan of Rob Reiner at all in any way, shape, or form. I thought he was very bad for our country.
Now, many in the president's party condemning the attack. So, for instance, Congressman Thomas Massie said in a statement, quote, "This is inappropriate and disrespectful discourse. I challenge anyone to defend it." Michelle Obama now speaking out during an appearance on Jimmy Kimmel last night. She said she and the former president were actually going to see Rob and Michelle Reiner the evening that they were killed.
Let me just say this, unlike some people, Rob and Michelle Reiner are some of the most decent, courageous people you ever want to know. They're not deranged or crazed. What they have always been are passionate people in a time when there's not a lot of courage going on.
My dad never looked back at his old jeans after I gifted him these.
Okay, we're bringing Shagun Odolu back to the chat because as you're our emissary from Hollywood. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because one of the, taking it back for a moment, Jimmy Kimmel got in trouble for criticizing the president about his inability to console and his inability to grieve in public. And at the time, people in Hollywood, they really backed down. I just want to play for people the joke, which you may not remember from that moment.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction.
And he went on to say, this is, you wouldn't console like a grief or a goldfish this way. That came back to me when I was looking at this Truth Social post from the president. How do you think it was received in Hollywood?
Well, it was received like a lead balloon. And it wasn't that Jimmy Kimmel was criticized. He was vilified. The president of the United States put a thumb on the scale and bullied media companies to remove him off the air for that joke and what was perceived as indifference to Charlie Kirk's tragic murder on a college campus. And yet here we have the president of the United States, who is supposed to speak with the will of the people, showing no remorse, no condolences, nothing that even resembles empathy or compassion.
And that's because Trump's the devil, and we know the devil doesn't have empathy or compassion. And I find it interesting how Trump's minions, as ignorant as they are, we shouldn't have been surprised, but I still was, by the fact that they tried to flip this, okay, and then blame Jimmy Kimmel and say that he was the one saying things disparaging about Charlie Kirk's death, rather than Trump, who showed no empathy, okay, or no concern at all. I find that very interesting. But let's continue.
And so my challenge is to all of us collected at the table, reporters, political pundits, to say, when is enough enough? When has civility been so far gone in America that we can say this type of thing and it get That wasn't good. President Trump missed the mark. This is past missing the mark. This is mean.
Okay, let me let you guys jump in. There's missing the mark, and then here's how some other Republicans, frankly, names you recognize because they often talk about the president, Don Bacon, et cetera. But here's how they describe the president's comments about Rob Reiner.
I don't think it was a proper thing to say at this time, and it is a tragedy. I don't think we should bring politics into it, and that was unfortunate.
This is classless. It's not appropriate. It's not presidential, and I think a lot of folks. I mean, I saw a lot of the MAGA guys today just shaking their head. It's not called for.
A wise man once said nothing. Why? Because he's a wise man. I think President Trump should have said nothing.
You know, in politics, you know, I was thinking as we were doing this segment that most of America don't know Rob Reiner was a staunch Democrat. Most of America don't know his political leanings. And if you do, you are staunchly in one corner or the other because you're on Twitter too much like me. Yeah. Most of America remember Rob Reiner like this: Meathead, the guy that was on Archie Bunker, an amazing producer of movies, people who told Americana stories. And then they wake up this morning, Democrat, Republican, or Independent. That's why you see these Republicans backpedaling, because they know it is horrible, and it's a horrible visual, and it's just horrible for the leader in chief, like you said, brother, to say this thing. And that's why it is so bad, is because most of America don't live in the world where all of us get all this information every
yes,
day.
and to your point, online, there's a lot of sharing of Reiner's past political comments about Trump. He was very strident about Trump all the time. He was a political guy.
Right.
Regardless.
At the end of the day, he didn't tell any lies about Trump, okay? And everybody knows that. Now, with that all being said, and Trump being the despicable, obtuse person that he is, just really looks like a piece of ish, talking trash about someone of Rob Reiner's caliber. Being his own, being the caliber that he himself has. It just sounds ridiculous. Now, with that all being said, and lots of people are mourning this man, by the way, Rob and Michelle Reiner, okay, and their tragic end. So anyway, with that all being said, Zoe Deschanel gave a tribute. Sally Struthers, who was his co-star, she played his wife in the show Archie Bunker. All in the Family, not Archie Bunker, but All in the Family. And she said there's no words. Robin Wright. And there was many of people that, left well wishes for his family and condolences. Now, they say Nick Reiner has spent over a decade, that's his son, has spent over a decade dealing with his addiction and at times has talked about it publicly. Nick Reiner has previously said he's done numerous stints in rehab and at times even been homeless. He's also spoken about arguments he had with his parents while in the throes of his addiction. In 2018, an episode of Dopey, a podcast about the winding journey between addiction and recovery, Reiner said that he first entered rehab when he was 15 years old and learned to work the system. He said, I was just like, I want to go home. And so I just stayed sober long enough till I could go home. And then, I just went home and did the rugs. Okay, that's what he said on the podcast. He also told the host about an outburst that he had after he was sequestered in his parents' guest house, which led to an argument. He said, I got totally spun out on uppers. I think it was coke and something else. And I was up for days on end. And I started punching out different things in my guest house, including a TV and a lamp. The incident ultimately led to him doing another stint at rehab. So anyway, the double homicide case against Nick Reiner will be turned over to prosecutors on tomorrow. Okay, they say that there's a case against him in connection with the deaths of his parents, Rob Reiner and Michelle Reiner, and it will be turned over to the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office, according to LA police officials. The DA's office will then consider filing charges against the suspect. Nick Reiner was booked on suspicion of murder, but it is up to the DA's office to charge him with specific counts. The date of his first court appearance will depend on when the charges are filed. So this is really sad. Imagine your son killing you and your wife. Just imagine that. After all you've done for them and all you've done is tried to help them with their addiction. This is really sad, really a tragic story. They'll probably end up making a movie about it someday, I'm sure. Okay, now with that all been said, GOP lawmakers criticized Trump's post on Rob Reiner's death. Representative Thomas Massey, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has become increasingly critical of the president in recent months, wrote on X saying this is a family tragedy, not about politics or political enemies. And then you have Representative Don Bacon, a retiring Republican, said the comment was classless, adding that it's not just something to joke about. And then Representative Stacey Bice added on her X account, she said, we should be lifting the family up in prayer, not making this about politics. Okay, the Oklahoma lawmaker also told CNN reporters that she had a similar situation happen in her district where a constituent was murdered in a knife attack by his own son. Representative Nicole Malatakis said Trump's post wasn't a proper thing to say at this time and added that it was a tragedy and I don't think he should bring politics into it. And then Senator John Kennedy said national leaders should show respect and restraint. A wise man once said nothing. Why? Because he's a wise man. We already heard what he had to say. Thomas Massey said, regardless of how you felt about Rob Reiner, this is inappropriate and disrespectful discourse about a man who was just brutally murdered. Okay, it just goes to show what a darn devil Trump really is. No empathy and sympathy. Okay, you can put grievances aside, right? Because the man's lost his life. He could have just shut his mouth. Okay, like they said, he could have just not said a darn thing. Right, but then he wants to sit up here and get mad because the man said that he was, owned by Putin and Russia. Well, he seems to be. And as a matter of fact, this report came out 13 hours ago, says hours after Zelensky, after Zelensky EU meets, that's the European Union, Trump praises Putin, confirms plan to give Russia Ukrainian land. Okay, and see, this is why we have a problem right now. Because like I told you all, the European leaders are not happy about this. The EU has basically said that they will absolutely liquidate their treasury bonds that they got from the US. Now, what's that all about? I'm so glad you asked. You see, because the US, when they have all these big military parades and all these different fancy things costing all these millions and billions of dollars, they don't have the money for it. So what they do is they get these other countries to invest in treasury bonds, okay, basically, and give them money for it, like giving them a loan, and then the U.S. pays them interest. Okay, so right now, the EU has over $2 trillion of U.S. debt, and they've threatened to dump it into the market. And if they do, well, that's the end of the U.S. economy as you know it. Okay, please pay attention. Okay, that's how that'll go. I mean, the economy would just be done. Let's get a little bit more into it. Okay, so reports indicate that European officials have internally discussed the potential or nuclear option of liquidating their treasury bonds as a countermeasure if the Trump administration takes actions that compromise European security interests. Okay, if he keeps messing around with Putin, okay, and not showing any regard for Ukraine. That's what they say, particularly regarding Ukraine. This has been described as a theoretical warning rather than an official immediate action. Now, here's the potential trigger. European leaders are reportedly concerned that the U.S. might strike a separate deal with Russia that would force Ukraine to make significant concessions or otherwise compromise a continental security. Okay, this is what they say, continental security. Now they say proposed nuclear option. Now the measure being weighed is a mass coordinated sell-off of U.S. Treasury securities held by European governments, which amount to trillions of dollars. And I know at least 2 trillion, okay, from my research. Now potential impact. Well, economists and officials cited in various reports suggest such a move could severely destabilize the American financial system, cause the U.S. dollar to crash, trigger a liquidity crisis potentially worse than the 2008 financial crisis, and cause U.S. borrowing costs to soar. Now, the current status about this whole thing is the discussion of this measure has occurred in internal evaluations and intelligence reports, suggesting it is a debated contingency plan rather than an announced policy. Some market analysts believe the threat is a bluff. Well, let's not call that bluff, because a mass sell-off would also cause significant economic damage to Europe's own economy. Well, they might just be willing to take that risk, okay? Because they have laid down the gauntlet on Trump, and they're sick and tired of him bullying them, because that's what he's doing with everybody, allies or not. Now, other EU actions. In a related move, the European Central Bank, known as ECB, has also called for increasing the euro's global profile to reduce dependence on the US dollar, citing instability caused by US politics, no less. Okay, now this remains a significant point of tension as the EU seeks greater strategic and economic independence amid concerns over the future of the transatlantic alliance. Okay, I just want y'all to pay attention. Everybody's falling out of favor with Trump, and even some of the US's own, some of our own allies. Okay, so let's go to this clip of them speaking with Trump after the Zelensky meeting. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance.
Ukraine. Now that the meetings in Berlin have wrapped up with Zelensky, is there a timetable for going to Moscow? Is the delegation going?
Well, I think that the delegation is largely there right now. Actually, they're in Europe, and they met with those people that I called out before, the various countries, plus some others. They want to see it end, Katie. They want to see it end. They all. I want to see it end. They want to see it end. I actually think that President Putin wants to see it end. You know, I've had good talks. We've had good talks with Russia, and I think they'd like to get back to a more normal way of life.
Mr. President, follow up there. An Article 5 deal seems to be emerging without NATO membership for Ukraine. If such a security guarantee is offered, what incentive is there for Ukraine to give up any sort of territory?
Well, look, you have, they've already lost the territory, to be honest. I mean, the territory is lost. But in terms of security guarantee, we're working with Europe on it. Europe would be a big part of that. And we're working on the security guarantee so the war doesn't start up again. We don't want to have a war start up again. You know, as I said, with Thailand and Cambodia, two people I get along with great. And I dealt with them and I called them and I said, look, fellas, you got to relax. You got to take it easy. They lost. You know, they started the war again. I got it ended. And things like that are going to happen. War. There's nothing pretty about war, nothing good. And there's nothing you can do to predict what's going to happen. But I think we've made a lot of progress with respect to Russia and Ukraine. I hope. You know, last month, it was close to 27,000 soldiers were killed, mostly soldiers, but 27,000 people, but mostly soldiers were killed last month in Russia versus Ukraine.
Is there a timeline?
No, I absolutely cannot with Trump. As Soul Sister says, America is falling fast and people are sleeping. Queen has been sounding the alarm for years. Thank you, beloved. I sure have. This is all nefarious. Now, at Dynamic Quality says, when Trump tries to sound presidential, he still sounds silly. Exactly. Okay, Terry Hinton says, not quoting the Bible, Terry Hinton says, Matthew 24:6, rumors of wars. Exactly. Okay, Trump's going to lead us into World War III. Okay, please pay attention. This man is so obtuse.
On security guarantees?
Well, there's no time limit. The time limit is whenever we get it done. I mean, we're going to try to get it done. We're making progress. It's more difficult than anybody could have thought. I would have said that half of the wars that I got settled, some were going for over 30 years, that half of them should have been more difficult, and they actually haven't been. There's a lot of dislike between the two leaders, you know that. And so it probably makes it a little bit tough.
Have you recently spoken directly to Putin? Have you recently spoken directly to Putin?
Yeah, I have.
With that all being said, let's go to some of these videos of people sharing their thoughts and views on this whole thing with the EU, okay, and Trump's stupid self.
Europe are fighting, and Europe has threatened to release their secret nuclear weapon. Europe owns $2 trillion of America's debt. They can sell that debt and collapse the American economy overnight. America and Europe are fighting, and Europe has threatened to release their secret nuclear weapon. Europe owns $2 trillion.
He's talking about a secret weapon. It's no secret. Okay. And see, that's the thing. Much of America doesn't even know the shady backdoor deals that the U.S. has going on. Meanwhile, trying to keep up the ruse like they're such a huge economic power when simply they could be collapsed at any given moment just by them making one wrong move. And leave it to Trump, and that's exactly what'll happen.
The United States going cashless pretty soon. Well, if we don't pay attention to what's going on in the EU right now, we might see that reality. Because look, the EU just passed a law that will put a cap on cash purchases over $10,000, and that starts in mid-2027. And if you thought that that was all they were doing, you would be wrong about that, because they're really trying to get cashless as fast as possible. Because there are already 7 countries in the EU that are either close to being cashless or are already cashless: Sweden, Finland, Netherlands, Norway, Denmark, Estonia, and Lithuania. And this isn't.
And speaking of Denmark, Denmark has already declared the United States a threat to their national security. But let's continue.
Necessarily just about being a cashless society either. No, they also passed some other pretty concerning laws revolving money too. Because another one of the laws that they passed is a KYC, which is Know Your Customer, which are built on a series of anti-money laundering directives, setting the rules for financial institutions, banks, crypto firms, lawyers, etc., to verify customer identities, assess risks, and prevent financial crimes like money laundering. So basically what they're saying is if you have any money anywhere, any assets anywhere, including on a cold wallet for cryptocurrency, you need to report that. If not, it could be considered money laundering. And just like many banks do in the United States, they'll hide behind the veil of fraud prevention and risk, saying money laundering is the reason why we make all these rules. And that's what they said for the cash purchases too. Cash purchases over $10,000. They start at mid-2027 to fight money laundering. And this is why we need to keep our head on a swivel in the United States, because if this is happening in the EU and the rapidly accelerating a cashless society, they could easily attempt to implement that here in the United States as well. And trust me, as a former banker, I can tell you, banks are very quick to make rule changes and claim it's done for fraud prevention purposes and anti-money laundering purposes, just like we're seeing the EU talk about. All the while, really, what's happening is now they can control your money. Now they want to know exactly how much you have in assets. Now they want to tell you how you can pay for things and how much exactly you can spend cash-wise. That's not fair. So this is about your money and this is about my money. It's no longer left versus right. This is the powers that be attempting to control everything going on in your financial world. As if they didn't have all the money in the world to begin with. Now they want to restrict how you can spend it too. So stop with the division, stay smart up here, pay attention to what's going on, and protect yourself as much as possible, because if the EU is doing this, it could very well happen in the US.
Oh, and it will. It will. I've been telling you all that for years. And at the end of the day, I absolutely think that Trump is going to bring in that system. Okay, I absolutely think so. With that all been said, like I told you all, Denmark has declared the United States, okay, as a problem for their security. Denmark's intelligence service identified the U.S. as a security concern due to President Trump's America's First policies, creating uncertainty about U.S. commitment to European security, its willingness to use economic or military pressure even on allies, heightened Arctic competition, especially over Greenland, and shifts in U.S. focus, making Russia and China's threats seem more manageable by comparison. The report cited U.S. tariff threats, potential military action against allies. Okay, this is so stupid. Why would you have threatened military action against your allies? How stupid is Trump? And Trump's interest in Greenland as key factors. Now they say uncertainty in U.S. security guarantees. The Danish Defense Intelligence Service, DDIS is what it's called, noted increased uncertainty about the U.S. role as a guarantor of European security, particularly with Russia's aggression. Okay, economic and military coercion. The report stated that the U.S. uses economic power, including threats of high tariffs, to enforce its will, and no longer rules out the use of military force even against allies. President Trump's expressed interest in buying Greenland, a territory of the Kingdom of Denmark, created diplomatic friction and highlighted U.S. strategic interest in the Arctic. Now, the shifting strategic priorities, they say, the U.S. pivot to Asia, focusing on China specifically, raised concerns that it might reduce its military presence in Europe and the high north, leaving a void. Now, this is challenging great power dynamics because while Russia and China are primary threats, the U.S. shift created more room for other powers, making Denmark's security landscape even more complex. In essence, Denmark's intelligence service was signaling that the U.S. under the Trump administration was becoming less predictable as an ally, meaning they can't trust them. They have to watch them. Okay, they don't know which way they're going to go, whether they'll go this way or that, or whichever way the wind blows. Introducing new security challenges alongside traditional adversaries like Russia and China, according to reports in December of 2025. Okay, and that's where we are right now. But let's continue. All right, like I told you all, Trump is bringing upon the fall of America. All right, that's exactly what he's doing. And he won't stop until the job's finished. Please pay attention.
EU is now approving an indefinite freeze of all $247 billion in Russian assets. And that is in turn getting Belgian backing to use those assets to support a nearly $200 billion loan to Ukraine. In other words, the Europeans are now ensuring that the Ukrainians have the support financially to continue to fight for another couple of years or more at a minimum, which means that's what the Russians have to expect, irrespective of what the Americans have to say about it. And the key point now is that the Europeans and the Ukrainians get to make more decisions over the future of Ukraine than the Americans do. Now, the Americans are pushing for peace no matter what, but the Americans also, even more fundamentally than that, don't want to have to be responsible for the outcomes. And if what you really care about is not being responsible for the outcome, then that means that the Ukrainians and Europeans are going to be the ones that make those decisions. If you want peace even more than you want responsibility for the goal to ensure the leverage over that decision making. And that is a bridge too far for the United States and the Trump administration. And by the way, this makes a lot of sense. It should not surprise anyone out there that the Europeans are the ones that care more about their own security and Europe and Ukrainian security, and they care more about Russia as an adversary than the United States does, especially the frontline states. They're the ones directly threatened. They're the ones that the Russians are engaging in the majority of their asymmetric warfare, the espionage, the strikes on their critical infrastructure, the cyber attacks, all of that, much more threatening to the Nordics and the Baltics and the Poles than it is to the Spaniards or the Italians or to the United States.
Okay. Now, with that all been said, TC Dan says, Queen, this is all very concerning, but also this is why it's so important to stay aware of what's going on. No more heads in the sand. I know that's right. Okay. That's why I'm here to keep y'all updated, honey, because we have to be paying attention. Because some people just don't even watch what's going on in the world of politics because they're too busy, caught up in celebrity gossip, honey. And when all the ish hits the fan, they're going to be totally unprepared. They won't even have seen it coming. Okay, please pay attention.
Each administration at some point in its first or second year has a strategic assessment, a strategic strategy of what the United States economic, diplomatic, political, and military objectives will be in foreign affairs. Ours just came out, and one of the more controversial sections, which I think otherwise was a pretty sound strategy, was simply saying that our partners, the founders of Western civilization, the Europeans, are in dire trouble. And then the authors of the strategic assessment said they face civilizational erasure. Well, you can see what that did to the Europeans. Nothing is more humiliating or makes a European angrier than we upstart Americans, who our founders came from Europe, and many of us did as well, to be lecturing the Europeans on what they're doing wrong. So they're very angry at us. But why are they angry at us? Because the assessment outlined why Europe's in trouble. Its radical green proposals, their new Green Deal version, is much more deleterious than ours. They have ample amounts of gas in the North Sea and oil. They have natural gas in France.
Okay, I've heard enough from him. Now, with that all being said, listen, I really don't give a darn that Trump's pissing off Europe. I just don't. And in other news, speaking of the EU, well, This African lady says, and she's talking about how the EU is contributing to Rwanda's war on the Congo. Let's get into that, okay? Because I don't give zero else about Trump taking them off. You really want to know.
We speak about the invasion of Rwanda on Congolese soil. So many international actors come out denouncing what Rwanda is doing, calling on Rwanda to withdraw their troops. But in the background, we see that the same actors are signing MOUs, they are signing trade deals to give Rwanda millions and millions of dollars in exchange for minerals that Rwanda does not have. The EU, for example, last year they signed an MOU with Rwanda worth 900 million euros in exchange for strategic minerals that Rwanda does not have. And just 2 months after that MOU was signed, Rwanda's proxy militia M23 just captured Rubaya, the biggest coltan mining town in the world. Is it a coincidence? They need to occupy foreign territories to provide these minerals that they sign up for. We also have to be calling out the hypocrisy of the international community, especially Western governments, that on one side are denouncing what Rwanda is doing, and on the other side are giving them so much money in exchange for minerals that they do not have. In Europe's case, for example, there was massive backlash that led to a vote by the European Parliament against this memorandum of understanding. But until this day, the European Commission has not cancelled that MOU. Who's lying to who? Whenever we speak about the invasion of Rwanda on Congolese soil, so many international actors come out denying.
With that all being said, let's go to this report by Ben Masalis from the Midas Touch, shout out to him, where they talk about world leaders directly confront Trump and call his bluff. Okay? Trump's getting called out on all fronts, and I love to hear it. His nefarious self. Now, let me get an overlay for this. He's going to play one of the European leaders, what she has to say about Trump's BS.
All continue to face the menace of an aggressive, expansionist, and revisionist Russia seeking to subjugate Ukraine and harass NATO. I find it harrowing that hundreds of thousands have died, with the toll mounting every day because of Putin's historical distortions and his compromised desire for respect. He is dragging out negotiations and shifting the cost of war onto his own population. But Putin should be in no doubt. Our support is enduring. Alongside the grinding war, Russia is testing us in the grey zone with tactics that are just below the threshold of war. It's important to understand their attempts to bully, fearmonger, and manipulate because it affects us all. I'm talking about cyber attacks on critical infrastructure, drones buzzing, airports and bases, aggressive activity in our seas above and below the waves, state-sponsored arson and sabotage, propaganda and influence operations that crack open and exploit fractures within societies. The export of chaos is a feature, not a bug, in this Russian approach to international engagement, and we should be ready for this to continue until Putin is forced to change his calculus. AI-powered robots and drones are brilliant for scaled manufacturing, but devastating on the battlefield. Discoveries that cure disease can also create new weapons. And as states race for tech supremacy, or as some algorithms become as powerful as states, those hyper-personalized tools could become a new vector for conflict and control.
Next up, I want to share with you what the United Kingdom's Air Chief Marshal Sir Richard Knighton said at the speech that he just gave, warning that people in Europe need to prepare now for the type of world war that their grandparents were involved in. War is about to start again beyond Ukraine, and Europe needs to get ready for a world war. This is the language that they're using. Here, play this clip.
The war in Ukraine and Russia's track record shows Putin's willingness to target neighboring states, including their children and civilian populations. The Russian leadership has made clear that it wishes to challenge, limit, divide, and ultimately destroy NATO. Deterrence, at least for NATO, has been working, but the threats and risks are growing. For 3 decades, many did not have to think about the armed forces. Peace was stable, conflict was distant, but that is no longer true. I will argue that the situation is more dangerous than I have known during my career, and the price of peace is rising. Our response needs to go beyond simply strengthening our armed forces. It needs a whole-of-nation response that builds our defence industrial capacity, grows the skills we need, harnesses the power of the institutions we will need in wartime, and increases the resilience of society and the infrastructure that supports it. The deterrence is hard to measure, and it's really hard to answer the question, how much is enough? In fact, it's almost impossible to answer that question, except in hindsight. But if we get it wrong, the costs could be huge. I'm super clear that our armed forces are our first line of defence, and we need to be ready to fight and win. But the cost of getting it wrong is not just going to fall on those in uniform. The impact of failure will not be on some hopefully hypothetical future battlefield, but on the infrastructure and economy that underpins our broader national life and that of our allies. We have to prepare to protect ourselves from an array of real physical threats of growing sophistication.
And then I will share with you right here one of the top foreign affairs EU officials, the EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs. Here's what she had to say.
And let me just commend Ben Masalis on his stellar reporting and research on Donald Trump, because he covers topics that the lamestream news is not talking about as far as Trump is concerned. He digs deep, so all I'm saying. Okay, he's very thorough in calling out Trump and his BS.
That Donbass is not Putin's endgame. Putin wants Donbass and to have eastern Ukraine handed to him. No, he can't take it over by military force. He's been too weak to do that, because then they're going to launch further plans and attacks. EU knows what's up, and they're not going to fall for Putin and Trump's scheme. Here, play this clip.
We have to understand that Donbas is not Putin's endgame. If it gets Donbas, then the fortress is down, and then they definitely move on with taking the whole of Ukraine. And you know, if Ukraine goes, then other regions are also in danger. We know this from the history, and we should learn from history.
And then this top minister in the EU for Foreign Affairs is asked, so can EU provide the security guarantees it needs to stay? Here, play this clip right here.
Have to keep in mind is that
on Christmas morning, if your kid wakes up to this game stick, it's gonna be there.
Why countries want to be in NATO is because they don't want Russia to invade them, to attack them. And that's why, you know, Sweden and Finland joined NATO. That's why the Baltic states joined NATO.
All right, this is why these countries are joining NATO. With that all being said, Miss AP says, oh, yes, by the way, Queen darling, you were #1 in my 2025 YouTube recap, beloved. Thank you. I appreciate you. Okay, I certainly do. Now, with that all being said, honey, Trump's messing up. My thing is, I'm on Putin's side when it comes to Ukraine. Sorry, not sorry. That's just how I feel about it. Okay, Reggie says their whole economy is based on their African occupation and they're being expelled. Exactly, okay? This is exactly what it is. Remember how mad the French got? Okay. Soul Sister said America is too arrogant to learn from history. Yes, they are. And let me just say something. Speaking of America, you know, you all don't stop to think ever that when the United States is talking about these other countries involved in trafficking and whatnot, like whether it's rugs or people, like when they talk about Maduro, okay, and then they have even said that Putin, that's how they get a lot of their money over in Russia from trafficking. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what it's been reported. So that all been said, you all don't think that these other governments that have been accused of trafficking, you don't think that the U.S. is trafficking too? Y'all don't think the U.S. is down with the get down? Where's all these over 800,000 kids that come up missing per year? Where are all these black women and black girls that come up missing? Yeah, America. What say you about trafficking? What about all the migrant kids who went missing? Okay, during Biden's own administration. And the lady, Tara Rodis, who came out and exposed it all and said that she saw, because she was boots on the ground, thought she was there to help these poor children, and only to find that the people that were supposed sponsors of the children turned out to be traffickers. Do y'all remember that? She testified before Congress, and I reported, you heard it here first. She blew the whistle. So I'm sorry, but while the U.S. is going around pointing the finger, trying to call out other countries about their nefariousness, they too are engaged in nefariousness, in my opinion, and likely doing a better job of it than the rest, because they're not getting called out on it. Okay, please pay attention. Now, I mean, you see how stuff gets swept under the rug? Wasn't there a report about over 300,000 migrants going missing? What about those pregnant migrant women who were put into those facilities and whatnot? Then nobody could find them. Not even their own lawyers could track down where they were. Nobody had a clue. What about the 1,500 children who went without parent or guardians in the dark of night, flown from one side of the country to the other? Y'all remember that? Y'all remember that? Now, this happened during Biden's administration, but what I'm saying is I don't think it was just Biden's administration. I think it's been all of these administrations, and this one right here included. At the end of the day, this is just what I think. I can't substantiate this, but I want y'all to pay attention, because trafficking is nothing more than slavery. Okay? That's what it is. It's never ended. And all these people coming up missing, y'all don't find it suspicious? Because I sure as hell do. So like I said, these are things that nobody in mainstream media is going to talk about. But I'm going to do a deep dive, and we're going to get into it, because I have some other interesting information that I have come across. All right, so that all being said, let's continue, because the next thing on the agenda is the fact that Trump has declared fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction. Okay, did y'all know that? Let's get into it. I wish they had deemed crack as a weapon of mass destruction, okay, when the Black community was in peril. So let's talk about it. President Donald Trump has designated fentanyl, a strong opioid painkiller that is widely used in medical settings, as a weapon of mass destruction, in what could be a major escalation in his administration's efforts to topple the Venezuelan government. Now, speaking in the Oval Office on Monday during a ceremony to award a long dormant medal to soldiers and Marines who've been deployed along the U.S.-Mexico border as part of his administration's immigration crackdown, Trump acknowledged that the medication is very important for medicine, for anesthesia, and various other things, he said. When it's mixed with certain things, it becomes bad. Now, the president claimed the mixing of fentanyl was taking place in Mexico, and claimed his administration had seized millions of pills containing the rug in recent months. But after a long, unhinged digression about the governor of Colorado's refusal to honor a pardon that Trump purportedly issued to a former county clerk who was convicted of violating state election laws in a vain attempt to prove that he won the 2020 election in that state, the president claimed Venezuela and other countries were sending the rug to American shores deliberately to kill Americans instead of to make profits and satisfy demand for illegal narcotics. This is what y'all's president came up with, saying there's no doubt that America's adversaries are trafficking fentanyl to the United States in part because they want to kill Americans. If this were a war, that would be one of the worst wars, he said. Now I want you all to pay attention to the narrative he's painting here. All of this is so that he can try to justify his attack on Venezuela, okay, and the airstrikes that he's ordering. They've destroyed a lot of families. These families didn't destroy themselves, the people that were doing the illegal substances, because if they would have gotten it one way or another, 9 times out of 10, wouldn't you say? And as of today, they've not proven that any of these illegal substances are absolutely coming from Venezuela. Okay, and he says they have all these pills and stuff they've seized. Where are they? How come they haven't shown any footage of it on the news? Or have they? Has anybody seen it? Okay, because I would think that if you confiscated large quantities of illegal substances, especially from other countries that were bringing it into the U.S. to kill Americans specifically, I would think that would be a huge thing, and you would love to show it all over the news, because isn't that in fact what law enforcement does when they make huge busts of Coca-Cola and whatnot? They have it all sprawled out on display and show it on the news and give a press conference and let us know who did what and where they got the illegal substances from. And Trump didn't do any of that. As much as Trump loves to boast and brag about his conquers, so he didn't show anything that they collected. Yeah, that's because he didn't collect anything, I guarantee you. Now, that's just my opinion. Anyway, he said the executive order he was signing would be one more step to protect Americans from the scourge of deadly fentanyl flooding into our country by designating the rug as a weapon of mass destruction, which he claimed kills up to 300,000 people per year. Let's do the research, shall we? Let me just look this up real quick and see if his math is mathing. Okay? Let's just look it up. How many deaths does fentanyl cause in the U.S. annually? Oh, he's way off. Okay, I want y'all to pay attention. Talk about just making up some BS as you go. Okay, do you all want to know what it really says? Okay, because I've learned that you got to fact check this fool for every little thing he says. So, sister said Trump just throws out any lie. Yes, he does. Because here's what he said. Let's repeat it. He said they say he claimed it kills up to 300,000 people each year. Well, that's not true. According to reports, they say there were, and this is 2023, just 2 years ago, there were 72,776 overdose deaths in the United States involving synthetic opioids, primarily illegally manufactured fentanyl. This number represents a slight decrease of about 1% from the previous year. Fentanyl has been the primary driver of the U.S. increase in U.S. overdose deaths in recent years and is currently the leading cause of death for Americans ages 18 to 45. Fentanyl is involved in approximately 69% of all drug overdose deaths in 2023. But even with that being said, the height of it is 72,776, not 300,000. Okay? All right. Which is more than twice as much, according to Trump, but it's lying self. Now, the presidential directive tasked the Secretary of Defense. Why are they still calling him the Secretary of Defense? Didn't he let them know that he's now officially the Secretary of the Department of War and Attorney General, with determining whether the Pentagon should provide the Justice Department with military resources for combating fentanyl trafficking under a little used section of U.S. law permitting the Justice Department to receive assistance from the military for an emergency situation involving a weapon of mass destruction. It's unclear whether Trump can legally invoke that part of the law, known as Section 282, to deal with fentanyl trafficking, but the president's claim to designate the narcotic as a chemical weapon could be sufficient for him to do so. Oh, he'll find a way. That's what the devil will do. Now, U.S. law defines a chemical weapon as a toxic chemical and its precursors, or a munition or device specifically designed to cause death or other harm through toxic properties of those toxic chemicals. The order also directs the Secretary of Homeland Security to employ the department's counter-proliferation apparatus to identify threat networks related to fentanyl smuggling, and to use WMD, which is weapons of mass destruction, and non-proliferation related threat intelligence to support the full spectrum of counter-fentanyl operations. Honey, Trump is doing the best he can do, honey, to be nefarious, okay? And to act as the devil himself, okay? Now, with that all being said, like I said, this is all for him to justify his attacks on Venezuela. Meanwhile, they still haven't caught the shooter for Brown University. That person's still on the loose. And I find it interesting because they said there's no threat to public safety. How would they know that if this man's out there on the loose? Okay? How would they know that? Let's get into it. The mayor did an interview. Let's go to that clip. Likes up, everyone. Please don't forget to like and share. Thank you in advance. Okay, I'm going to share my screen.
top story by the mayor of Providence, Rhode Island, Brett Smiley, and Providence Chief of Police, Colonel Oscar Perez. I thank you both for joining the broadcast. I know you guys are both incredibly busy trying to find this killer. Colonel Perez, I'm going to start with you. This investigation now topping about 50 hours. But up until a few hours ago, we just had one image of a person of interest. Why is this investigation taking so long, and why is it so difficult for your brave men and women there in the police department?
Yeah, thank you. No, sometimes, obviously, as I said it, as a seasoned investigator, almost 32 years, and I speak for the members of law enforcement. When you investigate something, it takes different directions. And you have to understand that sometimes tunnel vision kicks in. Sometimes you have to make sure that you examine evidence, you take the information, and you move on. And so it's been now 50 hours. But I'll tell you that the best thing that we have here in the police department is that we have some dedicated detectives, and we're collaborating with so many different agencies, including federal agencies, municipalities, and obviously we're going to be able to continue to gather more evidence to be able to identify and hold this person accountable.
Colonel Perez, do you have any idea who this killer is?
Yes, that's something that we're investigating. We're going to continue to build on. I'll tell you that what's great about this state and about the city is that we are very united. We have many partners, and we really care. We're proud of this city, this great city. And so I'm hoping that based on the images, the videos that we just released, that someone is going to be able to identify this individual.
Mayor, you know, we heard Aaron there say that you told the community you don't think there are other threats. Do you know that for certain?
I know that we have not received any credible, specific, or actionable threats since 4 o'clock on Saturday when this tragedy occurred. Anything related to this incident, we've not received a single credible threat. That is true. And so it's Monday afternoon now, Monday evening. We wanted kids to go to school today. They did so safely. Individuals have to go to work. Families have responsibilities that they need to tend to. And so we have really flooded the neighborhood and the city with additional law enforcement resources just to provide a stronger sense of safety and some reassurance to understandably anxious neighbors.
Colonel Perez, in the last few hours, your department and the FBI have released lots of videos and images of this person of interest in the surrounding neighborhood. You see them here on your screen. We're going to play it here in a moment. But nothing from on campus or inside that Brown Engineering and Physics building where the shooting took place. Why is that exactly?
So we're very limited on the evidence that we've been able to seize from the university itself. And so we've been now, obviously, as you saw in the images that you showed, is that we've had the old tactics of police and just detectives on foot and collecting evidence, but we've been very limited on the evidence that we've been able to seize from inside the university.
Colonel Perez, you know, do you think the killer knew that building didn't have enough surveillance cameras?
So we're not sure of that, but I'll tell you that we're going to continue to investigate, and those are the same questions that we have as far as how much he knew, the intentions, and why did he pick this specific classroom. But those are unanswered questions, but we're hoping that we'll continue to develop evidence to get those answers.
Mayor, when a horrific crime like this happens to a community, it's terrible, right? You can never really plan for something like this because these killers find different methods. They use different disguises. That being said, was your city, is this department, were they prepared enough for something like this?
I believe we were as prepared as we could be. You're right. There's no substitute. And we certainly hoped that we would never find ourselves in this situation. But with acts of violence like this occurring around the country, the responsible thing is to prepare as if it could happen in your community. And so we have trained for this. About 18 months ago, we did a full-scale active shooter drill in one of our schools. The coordination and collaboration between the departments that the colonel keeps talking about is going well because they train for that regularly. As recently as 6 months ago, there was a joint operation between Brown PD and Providence PD. This is a well-trained and equipped department, but also all of us in city government. I've been heartened by the support and the outreach that I've received from my fellow mayors around the country. But one of the just depressing facts is I've received dozens of texts from other mayors saying, I've been through this. We're here for you. Call us if you need help or advice. Sadly, this happens far too frequently. But in this moment, what that means is that there are people wanting to help our community.
Yeah.
We are extending that.
I'll tell you what, I'll be glad when they catch the person who did it, okay? Until then, everyone should have their head on the swivel. Now, let's talk about Megyn Kelly's ugly self. Right? She tore into Kash Patel over the bungled probe. Remember, when I told you all yesterday they detained the wrong person, and then instead of just admitting that they had the wrong person, they basically said something along the lines of they're going in another direction for the investigation. Now, Megyn Kelly has joined in on the MAGA meltdown over her pal Kash Patel's latest manhunt blunder. The conservative firebrand, 55 years old, couldn't hide her disappointment with the FBI director, 45, after he touted the detention of a person of interest in the mass shooting at Brown University, who was later released after authorities admitted they had the wrong guy. Saying, I really actually think we can get past person of interest turned out to be the not the person. I think we can get past it, but it has to require utter blatant transparency and honesty. But I'm not gonna lie, it's not good. This is what she said on her Monday night episode of her podcast. First of all, I didn't hear them actually admit they had the wrong person. I heard them say they're going in a new direction. Now, a different direction. It's not good or whatever. She says that our friend Kash Patel tweeted out that they have a person of interest in custody and kind of patting themselves on the back when it wasn't the guy. None of this is good. This isn't the first time he did. Remember, he did the same thing with Charlie Kirk. Okay, he came out and tweeted. Why is he always on social media? He should spend more time in the field office rather than being in the on social media. That's what he should be doing. He should be spending more time in the actual office, okay, working and solving crime, no less. Patel announced on X on Sunday that the FBI detained a person of interest after a shooter killed 2 students and injured 9 others at the Brown campus in Providence, Rhode Island, saying this FBI will continue an all-out 24/7 campaign until justice is fully served. That's what he wrote as he thanked his agents for their teamwork. Yep, that's what he said. Okay, I find it all interesting because wrong again, Kash Patel. What more do we need to know that this man's totally incompetent? Mere hours later, however, Rhode Island Attorney General Peter Neronha said the person of interest would be released after authorities found that the evidence now points in a different direction. Ha! Neronha said Patel was fully aware of the 180-degree twist that meant the shooter remains at large. The high-profile faux pas was another huge blow for Patel, who has been mockingly referred to as Keystone Cash, no less, after the bumbling police troop from the 1912 silent film. This is from a 1912 silent film. That's the character that they're calling him, Keystone Cash. Now, I'm sorry, but Keystone Cops comes to mind when you look at what happened at Brown University over the past 36 hours. Now how much time has been lost in tracking the real killer because they were focused on this guy? The FBI did not immediately return a request for comment on Kelly's remarks. Patel has also faced widespread backlash for similar gaffes in the manhunt for the killer of conservative activist Charlie Kirk and delays in the release of the highly anticipated files related to notorious PDF file Jeffrey Epstein. Now, Kelly hardly stands alone in the MAGA world in her criticism of her own friend. Other conservatives sharpened their knives for Patel after the Brown shooting flub. They say, Director Patel, tens of millions of us have supported you at the highest level, but we are extremely disappointed in the results after almost a year. This is what a MAGA-aligned X account wrote. Now, they say President Donald Trump, for his part, remains confident in his pick for the FBI chief. Asked whether Patel has explained the FBI's difficulty with nailing down the school shooter, Trump simply said, well, it's always difficult. So far, we've done a very good job of doing it. Doing what? Making goofs, okay? Please, of yourselves. But you'd really have to ask the school about that because this was a school problem, he added. What? Do you hear this? This is the president. He said they'd have to ask the school rather than asking the FBI and the president about the killer that's still at large, by the way. They had their own guards. They had their own police. They had their own everything, but you'd have to ask that question really to the school and not to the FBI. Do y'all hear this? This is what the president said. You'd have to ask school guards and the police and the school rather than asking the FBI, who is clearly in charge of this federal investigation. Oh, honey, this man is stupid. Trump's not qualified himself, let alone hiring people that are for his cabinet. Anyway, that's what they say. And then somebody left a comment saying, yeah, blame the school security police. Okay, trained for investigating high-profile murders on campus with endless lab forensics and manpower resources when they're not breaking up fights at football games and escorting students to their dorms after dark, right? Exactly. Okay, exactly. Oh, honey, how idiotic is he? How idiotic is he? Okay, beyond words. And by the way, in case you were wondering about that nefarious ballroom that I reported to you all as a whole eyesore at this point, and the people haven't been paid for the construction thus far, allegedly. So now they're saying that the Trump administration says the White House ballroom construction is a matter of national security. Does that mean they can't tell us what the hell's going on with it? Okay, I have so many questions. They say the Trump administration said in a court filing on Monday that the president's White House ballroom construction project must continue for unexplained national security reasons, you see. And that's the ticket. And because preservationist organizations that once it's stopped has no standing to sue. That's what he says. The filing was in response to a lawsuit filed last Friday by the National Trust for Historic Preservation, asking a federal judge to halt President Donald Trump's project until it goes through multiple independent reviews and a public comment period and wins approval from Congress. He never gets approval from Congress for anything, does he? The administration's 36-page filing included a declaration from Matthew C. Quinn, Deputy Director of the U.S. Secret Service. Now, the agency responsible for the security of the president and other high-profile or high-ranking officials that said more work on the site of the former White House East Wing is still needed to meet the agency's safety and security requirements. The filing did not explain the specific national security concerns the administration has offered to share classified details with the judge in private, in an in-person setting without the plaintiffs present. The East Wing had sat atop an emergency operations bunker for the president. Now, Quinn said even a temporary halt to the construction would consequently hamper the agency's ability to fulfill its statutory obligations and its protective mission. Now, a hearing in the case is scheduled for Tuesday in federal court in Washington. The government's response offered the most comprehensive look yet at the ballroom construction project, including a window into how it was swiftly approved by the Trump administration's bureaucracy and its expanding scope. The filings assert that final plans for the ballroom have yet to be finalized, despite the continuing demolition and other work to prepare the site for eventual construction. Below groundwork on the site continues. This is what John Standwich, the National Park Services liaison to the White House and work on the foundations, is set to begin in January. Now, above ground construction is not anticipated to start until April of 2026 at the earliest, he said. This is all a hot mess, but they're talking about a security threat or a matter of national security. The National Trust for Historic Preservation did not respond to email messages seeking comment. They say the privately funded group last week asked the U.S. District Court to block Trump's project, saying no president is legally allowed to tear down portions of the White House without any review whatsoever. Not even President Trump, not President Biden, not anyone else. This is what the lawsuit states. And no president is legally allowed to construct a ballroom on public property without giving the public the opportunity to at least weigh in. Now, Trump had the East Wing torn down in October as part of his plan to build an estimated 300 million, 90,000 square foot ballroom able to accommodate about 1,000 people before his term ends in January of 2029. He says that presidents before him have long wanted an event space larger than the rooms currently at the White House, and says the ballroom would end the practice of entertaining visiting foreign dignitaries in large temporary pavilions on the South grounds. The trust asserts that the plans should have been submitted to the National Capital Planning Commission, the Commission of Fine Arts, and Congress before any action was ever even taken. The lawsuit notes that the trust wrote to those entities and the National Park Service on October the 21st, after East Wing demolition had begun, urging a stop to the project and asking the administration to comply with federal laws, but received no response whatsoever. And the lawsuit cites several federal statutes and rulings or rules detailing the role the Planning and Fine Arts Commission and lawmakers play in U.S. government construction projects. They say the administration argued in its response that the president has the authority to modify the White House and excluded the extensive history of changes and additions to the executive mansion since it was built more than 200 years ago. It also asserted that the president is not subject to the statutes cited by the plaintiffs. Department of Justice attorneys said in the filing that the plaintiffs' claims about the East Wing demolition are moot because the teardown cannot be undone. The administration also argues that claims about future construction are unright because the plans are not final. And the administration also contends that the trust cannot establish irreparable harm because above ground construction is not expected until spring. It argues that the reviews sought in the lawsuit, consultation with the National Capital Planning Commission and the Commission of Fine Arts will soon be underway without this court's involvement. Trump's ballroom project has prompted criticism in the historic preservation and architectural communities and among his political adversaries. But the lawsuit is the most tangible effort thus far to alter or stop his plans for an addition that itself would be nearly twice the size of the White House before the East Wing was torn down. Y'all hear this? What? Okay, didn't they tell this idiot that this construction cannot be bigger than the building that it is supposed to be connected to? What kind of BS is this? Okay. Arnster says, will SNAP pay for the ballroom? Jerron says, fired on ballroom contractor that questioned why it was being built. Yeah, he did get rid of that man because the man told him it was not possible for it to be done the way he wants it and said that it doesn't make any sense for it to be bigger, this ballroom to be bigger than the building it's connected to. Trump didn't like it, so he got rid of him. Probably didn't even pay him a damn dime either, because we know that Trump does not pay, okay, when he hires people to do construction work. He doesn't pay for the venues that he hosts his rallies at or anything, allegedly. Okay, so now with that all being said, let's talk about this rabbi who was there for the shooting, for the attack on the Jewish community. He has come out and spoken. So let's hear what he has to say. Said he's thankful to be alive. Anybody that survives a mass shooting should be just that. Trump does not pay his bills, says so, sister. No, he absolutely doesn't. Okay. I bet you, let me just hush. Let me just hush, because I was going to say something about possible money laundering. That's just my opinion, but I'll keep my thoughts to myself for now.
At a Hanukkah celebration at Australia's famed Bondi Beach, horrifying scenes unfolding on Sunday. This is what it looked like. People running for their lives as a barrage of gunfire rang out. Officials say the attack carried out by two gunmen was, quote, designed to target Jewish people. At least 15 lives cut short, including two rabbis, a Holocaust survivor who shielded his wife from the bullets, and a 10-year-old out enjoying the festivities with her family. The shooting sending shockwaves around the world. Right now, security is being ramped up at synagogues and other buildings, including here in New York City and really across the country. It comes as Australia sees a disturbing rise in anti-Semitic attacks in recent years. You see the numbers here. At this hour, dozens of people are hospitalized, including Rabbi Label Lazaroff, who recently moved to Sydney and helped organize Sunday's event. He was shot in the leg and the abdomen. Joining us tonight here on Top Story is Label's brother, Rabbi Menachem Lazaroff, who is also the educational director and campus rabbi at Texas A&M alongside their father. Rabbi, I am sorry for what your family is going through tonight. How is your brother doing?
Well, thank you for that. My brother is in the ICU. He's stable. The doctors are, optimistic, but
let me just correct myself. This is the brother of one of the victims. I actually thought that his brother was going to be speaking, but he's in the hospital. Okay, so let's continue. Just want to clarify.
He was hit in the abdomen, in the leg. He's had multiple surgeries. He's going to need another one. And yeah, he's got, liver damage, rib damage. It's really quite scary.
I know you have grown up in a world where it may feel like you're a target because of your religion and everything that has happened over the last 2 years as well to Jews, not only in Israel, but all over the world. When this happened, though, I still have to think it is so hard to comprehend and understand.
Yeah, a lot of mixed feelings. It really, obviously, we're thankful he's alive. Miraculous. Thank God for that. But it's it boggles the mind how someone could have so much hate to do something where people are just out there being proud of their Judaism, celebrating Hanukkah, and it's really quite shocking. And of course,
I'm sorry, did he just say that it boggles the mind how someone can have so much hate? Did he just say that it boggles the mind how someone could have so much hate? I'm sorry, I've seen a whole lot of hate all over this world, hasn't he? We're not going to say who some of it comes from, but let's continue.
there's a personal feelings, the tragedy of Rabbi Schlinger, who was killed, and then and all the other people that lost their lives there, and other people that were murdered.
One of the issues, one of the things we've seen with this mass shooting is that there was so much video actually shot, and you can see just the terror on people's faces and what happened, and also just the cold-blooded killings that were happening as well with the shooters. Have you been able to speak to your brother? Has anyone been able to communicate with your brother about what happened to him and what he saw?
No, so we don't know anything about that yet. My parents are still on their way there. They're on a plane to Sydney now. He's intubated. He's asleep. He has been, as far as I know, since he got to the hospital. So I haven't had any contact with him. I don't know what he knows, what he doesn't know. It's definitely a lot.
It's the beginning of Hanukkah. What are you hearing from your own community during what is supposed to be a time of celebration?
So, just an outpouring of love and support, which is, of course, very appreciated, and a resolve. Hanukkah is all about, lighting the menorah, spreading that light around us. And, terrorists always want to.
Well, all I can say is prayers and condolences for those who lost their lives. Prayers for a speedy recovery for his brother who's currently in the hospital and any other victims that are in the hospital. That is sad, okay, when anything like this happens. But at the end of the day, to act as though you're shocked and appalled about the amount of hatred that has been shown when there is clearly a whole lot more hatred that has been espoused upon this world, okay? And I'm sure that he knows where some of it has come from. Now, with that all being said, let's talk about this guy by the name of Phil Rivers. Now, Phil Rivers retired from the NFL some time ago, but he has made a triumphant return, they say. Okay, he had become a high school football coach, and he returned to the field after someone was injured. And his students cheered him on. Now, let's talk about it. And I'm just going to tell you all, I thought this was interesting because this man's 44 years old and he made his return. Okay. And then also, this is just my way to segue into talks about Shakur Sanders, in case y'all missed it. All right. So let's get into it. Y'all know I couldn't resist. Okay, here we go. Lights up, everyone, please like and share.
The cheers from the St. Michael Catholic football team could hardly be contained by the walls when the Alabama players watched their 44-year-old coach, Philip Rivers, reemerge from NFL retirement, throwing a touchdown strike in Sunday's game against the Seahawks, his first NFL game in 1,800 days. Also, a last-second loss.
We'll fight like crazy until they tell us the season's over. And so you can guarantee that for the next 3 weeks.
One of the most revered quarterbacks this century, Rivers has been coaching the Cardinals since 2021, but ended a 4-year NFL hiatus and signed with the Indianapolis Colts practice squad last Wednesday after the team's starting quarterback Daniel Jones tore his ACL. The buzz back home among players was immediate.
We've always heard of rumors, but by the 5th year,
just it's not really a possibility anymore. And he's a grandfather now.
Running back Noah Moss thought there was too much smoke, though, for a man known for his fiery demeanor.
He's pretty much the same person in our games as he is in any video or compilation you've seen on YouTube. He's a competitor.
So he went straight to the source, Rivers' son, Gunner, the team's quarterback and one of the nation's top recruits.
I FaceTime Gunner, and he was in the shower, and he told me.
All of it leading to a surprising Hail Mary situation where the father of 10 ultimately did make his way back to the football field. Rivers, who becomes one of only a half dozen NFL quarterbacks ever to play at the age of 44, including Tom Brady, has reshaped football in his hometown. What kind of transformation have the Cardinals experienced under Coach Rivers?
Not only is transformed in terms of how well we're playing, but just the whole program, kind of having our own sense of pride now for the games.
Rivers and his wife, Tiffany, have children ranging from 2 to 23 years old, middle school sweethearts who welcomed their first grandchild earlier this year. But this grandpa relishing in each moment, even the hard-hitting ones.
There's been times in the last 3 or 4 years I said, I kind of wish I could just throw one and get hit hard.
Now the stage is set for a 49ers matchup next week. And these players.
Now, the reason I find this story interesting is because Philip Rivers is the same person. Now, remember how I told you all that they have so much disdain against Deion Sanders and his sons, Shiloh and Shakur, specifically Shakur? I believe that the reason Shiloh was kicked out of the NFL for putting hands on somebody is because he's Deion's son, because other people have done the same and they've only been fined. Okay, that's just how I see it. But I find it interesting because you see, when I was telling you all about how they were doing Shakur and how he fell in the draft and all the sabotage and all this stuff, I also told you that they didn't seem to have a problem with Archie Manning and his sons Eli and Peyton. Okay, because Archie Manning made a big deal about where his son Eli was going to be drafted. In fact, when Philip Rivers and Eli, well, they both have intertwined stories basically because in 2004, in the famous NFL draft, that's where the Chargers took Manning, #1 overall. Okay, even though he was reluctant, but then they immediately traded him to the Giants for Philip Rivers, the man that we just saw. And they both went on to become big icons and franchise quarterbacks and what have you, and shared similar histories in the game. Okay, so I find that interesting because, like I said, he's tied to that story about the Mannings that I told you all about. And currently here we still have them hating on Shakur. But let's continue.
Are his biggest supporters historic touchdowns or not?
It sounded like somebody had just hit a buzzer beater in a packed basketball arena. We were all so excited. Everybody was jumping up and down.
Sam Brock joins us now in studio. Sam, let's go back to Philip Rivers, the NFL quarterback, not the coach. So what more can he do? I mean, will he play in the next game on Sunday? Is that pretty much it? The Colts don't have a great chance for the playoffs?
He is confirmed for the next game against the San Francisco 49ers. Right now, Tom, the Colts have a 10% chance of making the playoffs. If the season ended today, they would not. They have to leapfrog a few teams. But as you said, he's Philip Rivers. He's a legend. This guy, according to his players, is so fiery. He's at least as fiery as the other players that are on opposing teams. He has apparently a clipboard with a spreadsheet of all of the referees' names on it, and he has their first names. And if he gets mad at them, he calls them by their first names. He's snapping headsets. He does all the things we saw him do as a player, only in high school coach form.
All right, I just want y'all to pay attention. That man is 44 years old and way better than Dylan Gabriel. Okay, just want y'all to pay attention. Now, with that all being said, let's talk about what people have been saying about Shakur Sanders and this nefarious wristband story. Okay. Now, on yesterday, wasn't it Byron B? Wasn't it Byron B who told the Queen that I was biased? Yeah, I absolutely am. Okay. Shakur Sanders is my nephew. All right. I'm one of his internet aunties. And yes, I am biased. All right. I don't like Kevin Stefanski and I never will. Okay. The only way I'd like to see Kevin Stefanski is not being the coach of the Browns. All right, pay attention.
I don't have the right wristband. I start a football game. I don't have the right wristband. And we're supposed to be evaluating this? Again, welcome. Everybody who's not a fan of the Browns before the season and you're taking it all in, welcome. Because this is par for the course. And constantly getting in your own way. And I'm going to sit here and talk until I lose my voice again. I start a game, I don't have the right wristband. I start a football game, I don't have the right wristband. And we're supposed to be evaluating this? Again, welcome. Everybody who's not a fan of the Browns before the season.
Let me tell you all something. Shakur said the wristband fell out or whatever. I think Shakur said something like it fell out. I don't think it fell out. I think Shakur was just covering for Stefanski. Okay? I think he was covering for Stefanski. Now, I could be wrong. But we all know that whenever they ask Shakur anything negative about Stefanski or Gabriel, he always says something nice or covers for them or says, please don't say that. We don't want to make my teammate feel uncomfortable or whatever. He always takes the high road. I don't think it had anything to do with it just falling out. I think that they purposely gave him the wrong place. That's just what I think.
Cleveland's offense struggling just operationally to start this game. Prior to this possession, when Shakur was on the sideline, he actually came over. They removed the wristband with the play calls in there, and they made a change to one of the sheets and some tweaks, some changes with that wristband that he wears with the play call. So that could have been part of the issues they had early. Worth noting with Cleveland's offense.
All right, so there y'all have it. Now let's continue. Because here is somebody else going off. And some people were asking why the hell this didn't happen when Dylan's on the field. I mean, I have questions about that too.
What the hell is Harry? What the hell is Burton? What the hell is Ron? What the hell is Byron? What the hell is Byron? What the hell is Byron? What the hell is Ron?
Okay, y'all heard the song. I have the same question. What the hell they on? Okay. So, Sister, I totally agree with you, Queen. They did that on purpose. Yes, beloved, I absolutely believe it. Okay, I absolutely believe it. They're not going to tell me anything different. This is nothing but clear-cut sabotage. When's the last time we ever heard of something like this happening in the NFL? Come on now.
That crazy things only happen to Shakur Sanders. Not when Dylan Gabriel's in the game or anything like that. Why does only crazy things happen when Shakur Sanders is back at quarterback?
Man, who knows?
The game started off like things were about to go bad for Cleveland. From the first possession of the game, Cleveland starts on their 1 yard line. Then on the next series, Shakur was trying to beat the delay of game clock, but he didn't get the snap off in time. But why? Why didn't he get the snap off in time? I'm going to show you why right now.
Allison. Kevin, worth noting with Cleveland's offense struggling just operationally to start this game. Prior to this possession, when Shakur was on the sideline, he actually came over. They removed the wristband with the play calls in there, and they made a change to one of the sheets and some tweaks, some changes with that wristband that he wears with the play call. So that could have been part of the issues they had early.
Why does something always happen when Shakur Sanders is at quarterback? That's all I'm asking.
First time I ever heard that in life, getting the wrong plays.
You know
That's what I'm saying. I never heard that in my life.
That Shakur actually had the wrong plays on his wristband? You mean to tell me it's possible the plays on Shakur's wristband wasn't matching the calls from the offensive coordinator? Is that possible? This can't be true, man. This is by far the first time I have ever heard something like this, man, on the NFL level.
And the thing is, Kevin Stefanski, he was just so cavalier, so nonchalant when asked about it with his stupid self. I literally can't stand this man, okay? He better not let me see him in Cleveland. I'm going to tell him a thing or two. All right?
Early on, was there some problem with Sanders' wristband? Yeah, there was a miscommunication early.
I think they mentioned that you guys had the wrong plays in the wristband on the first two drives. Is that accurate?
No. Yeah. There was something. I don't know if the wristband got something on it or whatever it was, but there was we got that fixed pretty quickly.
Now I want you all to pay attention. Here's how you know that Shakur was trying to cover for Stefanski, because Shakur said supposedly that the thing fell out of the wristband. Kevin Stefanski just said that something was on it or something. It wasn't nothing on it. You gave him the wrong damn thing, okay? You gave him the wrong wristband. You gave him the wrong plays. That's what you did. So now we can clearly see that Shakur was trying to defend him, because at the end of the day, he said something totally different than what Shakur said. Okay, so that's just what it is.
No. I mean, the funny thing about it is it's hard when reporters ask
a coach a question, especially like that, a coach is always going to be PC. He's always going to be politically correct and not give the true, honest answer on what the issue is behind whatever it was that happened with the wristband. They're never going to tell us the truth. They're never going to. So now it leaves all of us guessing.
Byron B., if you don't sit down somewhere saying, could it be that he has too much melatonin for the wristband to work? Why would that be the case? His melanin should have nothing to do with it, beloved. And if it did, wouldn't you think that other Black players would have the same issue? Okay? You wouldn't think so? Stop trying to make excuses. No, they knew what they were doing. Stefanski did it, period. And if he didn't do it, I'm saying he did it because that's what I think. All right? I'm not giving him the benefit of the doubt. It's not happening. Now, with that all being said, let's go to this thorough breakdown. Okay? Let's go to this thorough breakdown of what they had to say about the game. And here's the thing. A lot of these idiots on here hating on Shakur on the internet these people specifically that don't look like me, who just don't like him for racist reasons. These people, some of them don't even watch the damn game. And that's why when some of these people are talking greasy, I don't pay them any attention because unless you watch the game, shut the hell up. Some people don't even watch the game. They're just going by what they heard, seeing a few highlights and whatnot. So they don't know what the hell really happened. And some of them don't even know a damn thing about football. That's what they don't know. Okay? So I don't even entertain their ignorance. Because if you don't know what you're talking about, why am I listening to you again? Okay, why is anyone? Okay? If you don't know the game, just sit down somewhere is all I'm saying.
Is kind of in a divide about Shador's performance, so I'm kind of really excited to hear what you guys have to say. So Cody, I'm gonna start with you. I love your quarterback analysis, so give him a letter grade.
I'm not going to give him a letter grade, actually. Oh. Because I think it would be unfair to put a letter grade on any individual in this game. Because let's start with what happened going into this game.
Hold on, he's about to give a thorough breakdown. I agree with everything that he has to say. Byron B. said, Queen, can I say a joke every now and then? Sit down somewhere, Byron. I know you were probably joking, but just in case you weren't. Okay, Reggie says, not me. I know they sabotage him. Okay, exactly. Okay, Rich said no excuses. Joy said they're so racist that they rather lose the game than honor talent. Exactly. Listen, one thing that I have always told you all about racist devils is they will absolutely cut off their nose to spite their face. Okay, if winning a game makes Shador be painted in a good light, okay, it makes him shine like the diamond that he is, no, we're not going to do it. Kevin Stefanski couldn't resist. Listen, it is so blatantly obvious. If we had any doubts in the beginning, I'm going to tell you like this. I don't know if Kevin Stefanski is racist. I really don't even think that he probably is. He's probably just a hater. He just does not like Shadur Sanders. He thinks that Shadur, well, he knows that Shadur is far better than his pick, Dylan Gabriel. He knows this. Okay, he doesn't like the fanfare that comes along with Shadur. He doesn't like the fact that his jersey sold out, that he has all these number 12s in the stands and that people boo Dylan Gabriel, his pick. He doesn't like the fact that people hold high expectations and think that Shadur is so great. So he does everything he can to stifle him, to keep him stagnant, and to make him look bad and incapable and incompetent. This is what he does. And it's very obvious for anyone to see if you look with your eyes, because he doesn't even like to say Shadur's name. He talks very nonchalantly when speaking about him. He seldom gives him credit. Let's not forget the game when Shadur broke records, did things that hadn't been done in over a decade, and then he gives the game ball to Myles Garrett. Okay, I'm just saying. Not that Myles didn't deserve it, but he could have at least given it to Shadur. Myles didn't need that ball, did he? And at the end of the day, it just really bothers him when people praise Shadur. This is why when reporters ask him anything, he's just so, dry when he's speaking about it. He just tries to move on quickly to the next topic because he doesn't want to even talk about it. And for anybody to think that all of these foolish things he's done, such as taking Shadur out of the first preseason game, putting in that other guy at for 2 minutes, and then just last week what he did, and now this whole thing right here, y'all think this is just happenstance? Of course it isn't. It's complete and utter sabotage. And if anyone had a question, they should now know the answer. It is sabotage. That's unequivocally what it is.
Right? The Browns offense, not just Shadur, the offense is already at a disadvantage going into this game. Why? Because, and these aren't excuses, these are facts. I want to put this out there because I've been a rookie quarterback playing for Cleveland in this exact situation, dealing with injuries, and you're back up against the wall and in a tough situation. So this is from experience. But they go into that game without 3 starting offensive linemen. On top of that, they lose a 4th starting offensive lineman. Their right guard, Jenkins, goes out during the game, who's already filling in for Wyatt Teller.
Yep.
So they're out 4 offensive line in that game. You're also out David Njoku, who is a premier pass catcher on that offense. I know Fannin has stepped up, you got Jerry Jeudy, but David Njoku is a difference maker. I played with Njoku when he was a young rookie in Cleveland. He is an athlete. He's a big-time player on that team. But looking back at the offensive line, what happens when your offensive line is injured like that? 1, you can't protect, but 2, you can't run the football. And what is a young quarterback's best friend? The run game. The Browns ran the ball for 50 yards yesterday, and 24 of those, Skip, were Shador's 2 scrambles. So let's take that out of that. They had 26 rushing yards on 14 carries as an offense. That's 1.8 yards per attempt. I don't care who you are at quarterback. Against that talented of a football team like Chicago is, you're not going to win the game running the ball for 26 yards and having to force your quarterback to make continuous third down conversions over and over and over. That is a difficult spot to be in. You have to be able to run the football. Stefanski, Tommy Reese, they've got to come up with a better run game plan, especially on early down and distances to put you in an advantageous situation on third down. That's one thing. The other thing, too, with this is that, and look, I'll say this. Were there some negative things that happened for Shador in this game? Absolutely. I'm not going to run from that. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He'll tell you the same thing. He'll look you in the face and say, I didn't play good enough. But there also are a lot of positives that have happened over these first 4 starts. And there were some positives yesterday as well. And you can't, as a young quarterback, and I fell victim to this, but you can, as a young quarterback, let these losses and these bad throws and some of these bad performances overshadow some of the positives that you are doing as a rookie quarterback. Because if you do that, you lose your confidence in yourself, but you also lose your confidence in your ability to succeed in the NFL. And you guys know, once you lose your confidence, it is extremely difficult, especially as a quarterback in a media market like Cleveland, to gain that back. But I don't.
Okay, no lies detected. He's absolutely right. And that's exactly what Kevin Stefanski's trying to do. He is trying to make Shador lose confidence in himself and also trying to make the fans lose confidence in him. That's exactly what he's doing. It's called buck breaking. Okay, he's trying to mentally break him. Okay, I mean, just think about it. Like I told you all in yesterday, if you're out there in the game, you're on the field, and then you realize you have the wrong wristband, the wrong plays, and all of this, and everything's just effed up. Okay, how is that going to make you feel in your headspace? What kind of headspace is that going to put you in? Okay, I'm sorry, you would be very distracted, I would imagine. Okay, you would be like just completely just thrown off your game. Okay, and then you realize, as everybody has been saying, that the coach is absolutely unequivocally trying to sabotage you.
I don't think he's done that yet. I feel confident that he still has belief in himself. He knows that he can get to where he needs to be. The other thing, too, I will say that was a disadvantage for that offense is one of the most important things on the road, starting fast. Well, what happened to them? They started on their 1 yard line. The first play, false start. The next play, we have 12 men on the field.
Well, wait a second. They started at the half-yard line.
Half-yard line. That's what I said. Their own 1 yard line.
Yeah.
Then, apparently, his wristband paper, it fell out, all of those things. So you've got to start fast. And why is that tough, too? Because when you go into a game, I'm practicing all week my first 15. These are plays 1 through 15 that I'm going to run, and then we'll sprinkle in third down, fourth down, second and long, whatever it may be throughout the week. But I know the night before, I'm visualizing the first 15. The day of, I'm visualizing the first 15. Well, when you get backed up, that first 15 goes out the window. You got to go straight to, which I think fell out of his wristband, straight to that backed up section of your call sheet and start there. And those aren't plays that you practice all week. You practice backed up maybe one time throughout the week. So that's tough to start fast. But with all that being said, let's get to the film.
And it's Friday.
Huh?
You practice backed up on Friday.
For one series.
2 plays.
You get 2 plays of backed up, and then we're going back to red zone goal line, right? Because you don't expect to be backed up like that a lot in the game. So to start like that, you have Jerry Jeudy. He beats Johnson off the line, right? Gives him a little move. Yeah, does he get a yard to where everyone's saying, "Oh, throw it over the top"? No, it's not just tunnel vision. There's other players on the field. They have a too high look, right? So you have Byard, who is a ball hawk. He is outside 4 yards outside the hash. If you throw that with air and throw a 3-ball to the back pylon with Byard, who already has 5 to 6 yards of depth on him, the longer the ball's in the air, the more the DB can make up on the play. He's going to go pick that every single time. I don't care what you say. He threw a back shoulder. Jeudy, in my opinion, Johnson got his hand in there, but Jeudy, in my opinion, I would have liked to see him get a little more body control, extend his hands out, and pull it away. It's a back shoulder throw that we see the greats make all the time.
Hit him in the chest.
Hit him in the chest. It did him in the chest. For Judy's sake, I'd like to see him use his hands. I think he tried to do late hands and try to sell it instead of just extending his hands out and grab.
I'm sorry, didn't I just tell you all this? Didn't I just tell you all this about Jerry Jeudy? That I said there are some people I've seen play in high school that they would have dove for the ball. They would outstretch their hands. Okay, they would try to move faster. Jerry Jeudy seemed like he slowed. Okay, and then just didn't even try to catch the darn ball. Yeah, it did go over his head, but he could have still tried to get that ball. I just don't trust Jerry Jeudy. I think that, like someone said, DJ Big Six, the fix is already in, and I think that Jerry Jeudy is a part of that fix. Okay, I think he's working behind the scenes with Kevin Stefanski, and that whole little get down on the knee and tapping Shedeur on the back is all BS. I would still not trust him if I were Shedeur Sanders.
Having it, but again, hits you in the chest. You got to catch that, especially if you're wide receiver one. So I don't put that on Shedeur at all. I thought that was a great player. But when you're a DB, you know this. When my head's turned, that's open in the NFL. When I'm not looking at you, my eyes aren't to the quarterback, I'm going to throw you open. That was a perfect throw, in my opinion. Right off his ear hole, right to that back shoulder, hit him in the chest. You got to make that catch. Now to the positives, because there were.
Now, that was a good throw, because how do you not catch it? It literally hit you in the darn chest. Are you dumb? At the end of the day, that was done to make Shedeur look bad, my opinion. But let's continue.
Some positives. And again, I know everyone likes to look at the stats and the QBR and all of that and the interceptions. You can't. You got to watch the tape, because there's some high-level throws on there that show you he has a high ceiling and he can be a legit starter in the NFL. The first one is that deep post to Isaiah Bond.
It was beautiful.
On 3rd and 10. The process skip is even more beautiful, though, because they walk 8 guys up to the line of scrimmage. It looks like it might be cover 0, but instead Byard's deep. He's at that one high look. All right, one high. It's either cover 3 zone blitz or it's cover 1. They're going to bail.
It just feels wrong for Shedeur to be a Cleveland Brown. You were there. It's a hellhole for quarterbacks. I still don't like the organization. I still don't. The owner's like a Jerry Jones wannabe, another little bozo, and I just don't like the direction of it. Shedeur needs to get out. I just hope him. My New Year's wish for Shedeur is to get a fresh start with somebody who really wanted him. So that's.
Gerald, are you going to give an opposing view at all, or are you on the Shedeur train as well?
What do you mean Shedeur train?
Or you think all positive Shedeur?
Eve to me is basically freedom.
Yeah, Skip did say bozo. He absolutely did. And that's what he is.
Give him a letter grade.
All right, let's hear it.
He played.
Because kind of the chat right now is giving us a C and an F.
He failed.
They are not on the Shedeur train right now.
He failed. But you know what the problem with that is? It's just okay. I've been to take the name off the back of his jersey person since he got drafted. I'm not grading his name. I'm grading the player. I don't care where we feel like he should have got drafted. Oh, he should have been a 1st-round pick. He wasn't. He's a 5th-round pick. Stamp it. He's a 5th-round pick. He's a rookie. Stamp it. He's a quarterback. Stamp it. If his name was not Shedeur Sanders, all of our grading skills would be different. So I graded him based off the play. He's a 5th-round rookie. He failed against a defense who's been taking the ball away from everybody. They blitz more than they blitzed all year. You know why? Because they knew he was a rookie. They took away his run game.
Well, they also knew that he's down 3 starters in the offensive line.
Even when they are starters they're 30th in PFF and pass.
Well, I got 32nd.
Yeah,
maybe they dropped.
But here's what I'm saying. Here's what I'm saying. So what? He had a bad day at the office. It's the NFL.
Yeah.
What is he going to do moving forward? That's what I'm concerned about. And you heard what he said. He make no excuses. He's just going to learn from it. The interceptions you talk about, he'll learn from it. The second one, the controversial one, Jeudy should have called it. DB made a good play. Moving on.
But sometimes there's when you're a lot of round drop, you don't get a lot of time to work on it and learn from it.
I don't care about that. I'm grading the game yesterday, and what he can do from this is just learn from it, man. I know you don't like. You feel like Tom Brady turned his back on him. He needs to go see him in the offseason. I'm going to tell you why. Because the thing with Shedeur is he's such a playmaker. You just got to learn how to adapt and adjust to how you want to make these plays. How do you do that? Like for me, for instance, wasn't an overall great athlete. I wasn't super fast, wasn't super strong. But my mind put me in position to do what, like Keith said, if you get cover 4, the one thing I can't get beat on is the post. So when it looks like I'm making this amazing play, I am making an amazing play, but I knew beforehand that this is what I can't get beat. So I'm putting myself in position to do it. With Shedeur, understand who you are as an athlete, who you are as a player. So you can't always trying to escape bailing out. You have to have more learn pocket feet, pocket presence, know where your escape lanes are. One of those blitzes, he was hot. The guy's coming, you got to know, okay, now I know I should be hot on this. Now I know that's something I can learn. Let me work with my receivers. Now I know to get the ball out after that. Where are my escape lanes? I need to learn to step up, slide, and then be able to make the throw. Forget the fact that he played bad yesterday. He's a 5th-round rookie. It's allowed, people. It's okay that Shador played bad. The problem is everybody put these unrealistic expectations on him, and then when he plays bad, now y'all are giving all the people who are looking for him to fail a foothold. Now they saying, see, we told you. No, grade him based off where he got drafted. Don't.
Yeah, this is all very true. Okay, this is all very true because see what they do is they were saying, oh, he's a 5th-round pick. Oh, he's not that good. What are y'all expecting? This is what they were saying in the beginning. But now it's like they grade him so critically. Like every little thing that he does wrong, they want to amplify that when they don't have the same smoke for Dylan Gabriel, who was drafted in the 3rd round. Okay, that's what they don't do. Now they're grading Shador as if he was drafted in the 1st round, but he wasn't. Okay, even though we know that he was good enough to be, he was not. All right, so let's keep the score the way it should be, but they don't want to do that because the haters, they want to find anything to try to disparage him. If the Browns lose, oh, it was Shador's fault. Was it due to poor coaching? I'm sorry, please make that make sense.
Oh, he should have been. He wasn't. The 5th-round pick. He's in his 4th game. He's allowed to struggle versus a defense that everybody's been struggling against. Now we look at how do you improve from this? What do you learn from this? And that's what I took from the game. I'm giving him a letter grade. He failed, but it's okay. He's going to learn. Allow him grace to learn to play NFL football.
Now, I'm going to have to push back on that. I don't agree with that. He didn't fail. Sit down somewhere. I would say maybe a B- if I had to give a grade. Okay, at the end of the day, Shador played a pretty good game, in my opinion, especially given the circumstances of all the things that he had to deal with, including the elements. That being said, I wouldn't say that he failed, okay? The team collectively failed, and the coach damn sure failed. Why isn't he fired?
I'm not looking at whether it's Cleveland or whether it's Baltimore or no. I'm grading the player. Give the kid some grace. He's in his 4th game. He's still learning. He will learn from all of the mistakes and all of the positives. But all that extra was this and no. So what? If he got an A, a B, a C, D, he give him a grade. But what you do move forward, I call it so what, now what? He played great last week. What happens moving forward? He played bad the next week. Okay, well, what happens moving forward? The great thing is he's been named the starter the rest of the year, correct? So he got more opportunities. Learn from this. It's a new game next week. Let's just keep moving forward.
Now, with that all being said, Skip would go on to say how he doesn't want Shador to stay with the Browns and would like to see him on another team. Where the two black gentlemen basically said that they feel like he should stay where he is. Don't run, stay there and face it and make a name for yourself rather than going somewhere else, because then people will still basically have something to say. So what do you all think about it? At the end of the day, I don't think he should stay with the Browns. I would not want to be where I'm not wanted. I would not want to stay with the Browns if Kevin Stefanski stayed with the Browns. Now, if Stefanski gets fired, that's a whole nother story. But as long as Stefanski's there, I wouldn't want to stay there if I was Shador. I would not want to be somewhere where I was not welcome. And I was made to feel as though my entire game was being sabotaged. I just wouldn't want to do it. Okay. Now, with that all being said, I have a lifeline for you all. Before we get into the lifeline, I also have, hold on, let me ask you all something. Did I ever show you all a video once in the chat? Because I had this story queued and I'm not sure if I even ever discussed it. Y'all know I've been telling y'all getting so many news stories out. But did I tell you all the story about how they reused the coffins for the funerals? Did I tell you all that story? Did I show you all the video of the man destroying the coffin? Once in the chat if I did. Once in the chat if I did. If not, we'll probably talk about that later. But once in the chat, if I told you all about that story, how they reused the coffins at funerals and how this man I did. Okay, good. Okay, I was just trying to see. I couldn't remember. Okay, now with that all being said, let's talk about this because there is a black couple a Black couple who had twins at this particular hospital, and they went there, and one of the twins were dead, and nobody had answers. Okay, nobody had answers. Okay, so some of you all are saying one, some people are saying no. I guess you all missed it, but that was an interesting story because I didn't know that they even do that, reusing the casket without cleaning it out or anything, changing the lining or whatever. Yeah, and so this man was at the funeral for his relative, and he was beating the casket with a hammer to damage it on purpose, and saying, "Yeah, now reuse that." Because that's what they do. Okay, they do a whole bunch of shady things when it comes to funerals. I just absolutely egregious. But anywho, now let's go to this video. Because like I said, these people, their twin daughters born prematurely. One of them passed away. And the hospital just was treating them like very disrespectfully, in my opinion.
I'm in front of Harris Hospital in Fort Worth, and there's a bunch of ladies out here, and I wondered what they were holding up signs about. I thought they were doing a protest. But yeah, it's worse than that. It's really sad. Hey.
How are you?
So what happened?
Me and my family, we had twins. We had beautiful.
Hold on one second. Someone said, is this recent? The thing with the funerals, yeah, that was recent, if that's what you're talking about. But also this story right here, this is recent too. This happened just a couple of days ago.
Twins, they were born prematurely, no health conditions and all. They've been breathing 21% oxygen since they was born. The oxygen machine that they've been on to help them keep the lungs open been like 3%. That was all they was using. Friday I go to visit them. We go every day. We've been here day in, day out. Like, we know everything about them. Like, as far as we've been following, keeping in check with the doctors. They switched doctors this week. The doctors and the nurse practitioners that have been working with our child wasn't working with our child like this week at all. So we had this new doctor come in. I tried to go visit, and they told me I had to stand outside. And I was like, what am I standing outside for? They said they're doing a sterile procedure. I said, what's a sterile procedure? Because no one has called to notify me and my family. They asked me to just be patient and be calm down. I need to calm down. I was like, I am being calm.
Because they're keeping you from seeing your twin babies.
Yeah, but the woman was talking about one baby. So I said, okay, well, I have two. I should be able to see the other one. She said, no, the nurses and them are doing something. I said, well, you need to send someone out here to give me a better explanation because no one's called to notify me and the mother. So 10 minutes go by, she come out and she was like, Dad, your baby had a upset stomach earlier, and when I went to her bedside at 8 o'clock, I noticed that she did kind of seem pale. She was pale, but the vitals seemed okay to me. She said at 11:30, I went to check again. At 11:30, I also noticed that she was pale again. She said, so I did notify my superiors. I asked her, I said, this nurse name is Blanca P. The nurse that was working on my child at the time, her name is Blanca P. She said she came in and this is how she found her. So I asked her, what changed at 11:30 that made you go notify your superiors if you had the same symptoms and the same signs at 8 o'clock? She said, well, I've been a mother at the NICU, so she said, I didn't think that was alarm. I said, how is a pale baby not a sign of an emergency? How is a pale baby not a sign of an alarm? She said, well, I think I made the right decision as far as what I decided to go tell my superior. I said, you don't get paid to think. So she said, I need to call my boss. So the lady came, which is Sandra Simpson. Sandra Simpson came in. I asked her numerous questions. Every question I asked her, she deflected on. She kept telling me, any more questions, any more questions. I asked her about the oxygen level. Why did the oxygen level was so high? I asked her,
did you know at this point your baby had passed?
I kind of just prepared it. Like, God showed me already what was going on. And I was just trying to just stay strong, but pay attention. When the machine started going off for my daughter Code and they silenced the machine while I was sitting there, I asked the nurse, I said, ma'am, why is that machine blinking and why is it not making sound? She said, I silenced it. I said, why are you silencing it? She said, I silenced it because they're at her bedside working on her already, so I'm just standing here looking. But at the time she was coding. When she was coding, they told us that me and the grandmother would have to move to the side and get out the way. I asked her why we have to leave out. Like, we're not leaving, we're not going nowhere. So we stepped to the side. In the midst of that, they started intubating my child. And so I asked her, you haven't got none of this permission, and they were trying to cover it up. In the midst of that, I left to go get the mom so the mom could see my child before everything kind of went bad. The nurse was like, hey, I think this is the time mom should be here. So I was like, you could have said that an hour ago when I first got here and asked the question, but you displayed this to the mom as if nothing was no sign of an emergency. So we was never in the sense of like, we needed to be alarmed. But me paying attention and just being a little bit medically inclined, it made sense to say something isn't right. So I began to ask questions. Every question was like, I needed to be quiet. When I asked Dr. Simpson, like, what is the operation procedures? If this is like, what was my other options at this moment? She said, well, we can't operate because she just wouldn't make it. She was like, her heart wouldn't make it. She wouldn't do it. She's already under the stress. I said, how is she already under some type of stress when you're just now telling us that this just happened? It doesn't add up. And it takes a pale baby. A baby goes pale after death. In the sense of signs we're going to die. A pale baby, it takes 15 to 30 minutes to go pale. When I came back at 7 p.m. that night, they were doing the emergency, like CPR, they were doing a procedure. But they told me that they've been doing this for 30 minutes. No one still has called us since we left the facility.
To tell y'all that there's something serious going on.
During the medical records, their medical records also are fraudulent at this facility.
At Harris Hospital, downtown Fort Worth.
Downtown Fort Worth. I received some of my medical records that's on the phone on my mic chart. I had them received. When I looked at my chart, there's doctors and nurses that are on here that were not present at that day. When asked upon why is your name on this paper or were you here today, I was told that I was not here. I was not present. Can you please explain to me how your name's on this paper? I said, because that is a forfeiture. That is fraudulent. I was informed that can happen. I said, that's unacceptable. You cannot happen because I can't get on this computer myself.
I'm so sorry, y'all. I don't even have the words. I'm a twin mom, and I lost my son last year, and I'm so sorry for y'all. And my heart goes out to y'all. Yes, can I give you a hug? I was going to ask the same thing. I'm so sorry for y'all, and I'm going to pray for y'all.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
What is y'all's name?
My name is Kenneth, and my fiance name is Samaria.
Kenneth and Samaria? Okay. All right, y'all take your other baby home?
We're trying to get a move. They told us it's an insurance thing. So
I'm going to pray for y'all.
They've been giving us a lot of information. Like, they don't want to answer any questions. I was told by their chief executive director's nursing officer, Jennifer Chavez, and she told me that they're unable to answer any more questions for me, that the lawyer will be getting in contact with me. So.
Well, I'm going to put this out. I did it on my TikTok. I always got like 14,000 on my TikTok, 18,000 on Facebook. It's not a whole lot, but yes, you can. Yes, absolutely. Here, get this too, real quick. It's still going.
Can you get that one
Just
for me?
get
And
it.
I get this one.
Okay. You don't have to push nothing in it.
Ready?
All right, y'all.
1, 2, 3.
I do too. I hope something comes out of this, man. My heart goes out to y'all, and I'm going to pray for y'all. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm so sorry, Mama.
Okay, so a very sad story. They're not giving these people any answers, and the nerve of them to say that they can't tell them anything else. Okay, now here's a picture of the baby that passed away, bless her heart. Condolences to the family, specifically the parents. This is a message they said, hey, family and friends. For those that do not know, one of my twin girls passed away this past Friday on December the 5th of 2025 at the NIC unit at Texas Health Harris Methodist downtown Fort Worth. After asking multiple questions, just trying to get some clarity, I still have not been informed by anyone what took place leading up to my baby's death. There are a lot of discrepancies from what I'm being told, what's on paper and what took place. This is an ongoing issue within the Black community, and it's time for us to stick together. I am seeking justice for my baby and will not stop fighting until I get answers. I will be holding a protest this Friday, December the 12th, 2025 at 12 p.m. If you are available, I would love to have your support no matter who you are. I will not fold because I am not only fighting for my child or Black children, I am fighting for all children. If you cannot attend locally, please tune in online, share and repost to get the message across nationwide. All very sad. I really hate that this happened to them. This is absolutely egregious at the end of the day. And these people won't give them any answers. How did that baby die? The interesting thing is, the twins seem to have been at least stable and doing okay until this other doctor came along and took over. When they got this new doctor, then all of a sudden protocol seemed to have changed. They wouldn't allow the parents into the room, okay, told them they had to step back and all of this. Well, didn't want to answer questions. And then if the baby was in distress, the parents should have been immediately notified. And also, before they started any surgical procedures, they're supposed to also inform the parents to get consent. Don't they have paperwork that you need to sign authorizing these things? Well, of course they do. So them not being transparent, not informing the parents right away that something was wrong, the father having to just show up there and find out, and then not being given any answers to really clarify what actually happened. This is all showing signs of a cover-up. What the hell really happened here? You know what this story reminds me of? It reminds me of the story that I told you all about 2 or 3 years ago, maybe closer to 3 or 4 years ago, actually, with the little black baby down there in Louisiana at that hospital. Remember, the child was sick. The mother and the grandparents brought the child in. It was under 2 years old. Okay, the little baby, the toddler. And they left this baby at the hospital. And they went to get something to eat after being there for hours. They went to the cafeteria or what have you. When they came back, all of a sudden the baby's in distress and they've given the baby some serious kind of medicine that they didn't even get authorization from the parents, if you all remember. And then they wanted the baby's heart. So it turns out that it seemed, now this is all alleged because we can't prove what the hospital's actual motive was, but it did seem from the information that came out that the hospital wanted that baby dead so they could get that baby's heart for a transplant. Because sadly, as Black people, sometimes we're worth more dead than alive because people prefer our organs to anyone else's. And that's what it all seemed like. They wanted that baby's organ, okay, the heart. And they've given that baby some type of medication, and it was a whole big mess. They ended up going to court and all of that, but nothing ever really came of it. The family lost money. It seems like the hospital paid off the family's attorney, because I did a follow-up story, if you remember. The hospital didn't end up really having to do anything, no type of compensation that I can recall. And then the lawyer whom the family paid, they gave him like a $5,000 retainer. And then all of a sudden, the lawyer starts acting shady. Y'all remember that story? That's what this reminds me of. Okay, that's what this reminds me of. Why do we hear these stories all of the time? Okay, y'all know medical genocide is absolutely real. What did they do to that twin? Okay, somebody dropped the ball somewhere, and now it seems they're all engaged in a darn cover-up. Because how come you can't answer questions? And why would the nurse say that she saw the baby at around 8 o'clock and then didn't bother to call anybody when the baby already looked pale? I'm sorry. If anybody is in a hospital under serious medical, in a serious medical condition, and they look pale, you should immediately call the doctor, okay? Isn't that like a code blue or something? I'm sorry, make it make sense. She didn't do anything until about 3 hours later, and after 11, that's when she decided to inform the doctor. Okay, that's crazy. They're definitely going to be sued. Okay, even though that's not going to bring back the baby, but I would be hitting them for everything. I would even sue that nurse personally. Okay, I sure would. The doctor too. I would sue everybody individually who claims they were in there, who had something to do with it. And I would also sue the hospital. Everybody would be going down. Okay, because a lot of these people seem like they're just lying. Okay, they're not telling the whole truth. They're not telling the whole truth. All right, it's just all crazy. Anyway, like I said, condolences to the family. Very sad. So anyway, with that all being said, and let's not forget that doctor who decapitated those people's baby. Remember that? The black couple, the young black couple, the doctor decapitated their baby, and that was a black doctor. Okay, she was clearly not doing what she was supposed to do. She was not very careful with what she was doing. Okay, decapitated the baby's head, and then had them prop the head back up on the baby, wrap it in a swaddling blanket, and take it into the room so the mother and father could see it, because they didn't even want to show them the dead baby, because they knew what they had done. But when the parents insisted that they at least get to see the baby, they wrapped the baby with a decapitated head, okay, that came off in the birth canal. They wrapped it up in a blanket and took the baby to them. And then tried to later make it seem like the funeral home had something to do with it. This is all crazy, honey. This is all crazy. And they wonder why more and more people want to have their births at home now. Okay? Might be a whole lot safer as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, with that all being said, I'm going to conclude the broadcast. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Please like, share, subscribe. Again, condolences to the family, friends, and loved ones of Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle Singer Reiner. Okay? And until next time, beloveds, each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. Peace.
Hey, yo, Nick, hit him with that flavor. Soul all in my skin. God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen. Why you hating on me?
Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans? I got dreams like King Luther, shed blood like Kunsa. You ain't helping my people, I ain't got nothing to say to ya. I want all the smoke like hookah. Talking reparations, America won't be great until they give us compensation. I'm like, I'm the hottest right now. See a bunch of lames out here trying to jock on my style. They be doing too much. I'm the queen, it's too easy. It's like they all at Popeyes, how they be talking so greasy. I just sit back and laugh while these haters get madder. So nefarious how they don't want my pockets with cheddar. I tell them they can do better. These snakes in the grass can leave a bite on your ass, cause y'all be trusting too fast. I got my foot on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regrets, we only facing the threats. Running through every challenge like a relay, break no sweat. It's a cold game, so I got that blanket with me. Now that my people awaken, ain't no going to sleep. I do not play by my piece, this time I'm playing for keeps. You talking slick, but when I see you like them ends, we gon' meet. And I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got